Hello and welcome to the Sky Sports Golf Podcast presented by Callaway. Folks, we are just 1 week away from the Masters. It's been a long old winter, but the sun is shining, spring is here, and the azaleas will be in full bloom at Augusta National. And with that in mind, what a special guest I have this week. Only Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods, and Arnold Palmer know what it feels like to have slipped into that green jacket on more occasions than this man, one of only 3 players along with Jack and Tiger to successfully defended the Masters all the way from Montana. Good morning, Sir Nick Faldo. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. It's morning here. Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. Yeah, raring to go. You're right. I was brushing my teeth, thinking, just about to text my daughter because she's coming. She hasn't been for years. We're on countdown. We've got a week to go or 10 days before she gets here. So, yeah, it's amazing how we all think about it, isn't it? Even the color of shirt we pop on, it's funny that.
As soon as that calendar ticks over into April, the smiles are on our faces again. Obviously, the main thrust of our chat today is going to be all about Augusta. So Nick's 3 Masters victories, how this year's tournament is shaping up. And we'll also look back on a dramatic final day in Houston, where the world's best 2 players were on the charge and looking sharp ahead of next week. But it was a breakthrough first win on the PGA Tour for one of the game's characters, Min-Woo Lee. We'll look back on the final of TGL, where last week's guest, Billy Horschel, had the iconic winning moment, a life-changing win on the DP World Tour, and Charlie Hull shot a career low on the LPGA Tour, but faded a bit over the weekend. I'll also be joined later on in the show by another English golfer hoping to emulate Sir Nick and retain a title at Augusta. Lottie Woad will defend her ANWA title, won in style last year. We'll be chatting to Lottie. Plus, we'll have the second half of our chat with the man who had a front row seat to some of the most astonishing feats the game has ever witnessed. Steve Williams, Tiger's caddie for 13 of his 15 major titles. But first, let him cook. It was a win for Min in Houston. Min-Woo Lee was already a 3-time winner on the DP World Tour. He is now a PGA Tour winner, just about. He looked to be cruising, but made a Horlicks of the 2 par 5s yesterday, bogeying the 16th, having gone to that point 41 holes without a bogey. That meant he had to dig in over the last 2 and win by just a single shot from Scottie Scheffler and Gary Woodland. But Sir Nick, he is very entertaining to watch, is Min-Woo. He's about 7 stone dripping wet, but he pounds it an absolute mile. And it was a matter of time, I think, before he won on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, he looks good, doesn't he? Technically really good. I guess the learning process, when you make a mess of it and then you finally get through it, that probably does you the world of good, doesn't it? You get a nasty shock, and how do you react? So he obviously reacted very well. You got to calm yourself down and finish it off. But played great. I was watching his swing and all that sort of thing. Great consistency. That proximity to hole, as they call it now. The good old 15-foot circle. He looked great, and fended off. Scottie and Rory right there. It's got to feel good for him. That's, if you're going to win, it's never easy. And he'll remember that for the rest of his life, won't he? That was a great first win.
A great little moment as well. He had about 8 inches for the win, and he pretended as if he was aim point lining up that winning putt just to get a bit of a reaction out of the crowd, which I thought was quite good value.
Yeah, exactly. He's a good entertainer. He's kind of needed out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. On a personal note, I have to say, very happy for Bo Martin, his caddie, Shane's caddie, when he won the Open at Portrush 6 years ago. He got to experience those incredible scenes in his home country. So I'm sure he's looking forward to getting back there this July with Minnie. Sir Nick, Scottie Scheffler's best finish of the season so far as well. And ominously, perhaps the rest ahead of Augusta. The putter looks to be heating up.
Yeah, it is. And I love the close-up angles now. We can get right behind the stroke and check him out, and he's starting to hold the right putts. That's what he was so good at. He just rewarded himself. When you've got to do that, you hit so many good shots, some special shots, from rough and all sorts of different places, and then you've got to pop it in. If you miss those, it's like gets forgotten. But that's all good timing for Augusta, isn't it? Obviously, I guess most of the guys will have a week off. They go in early. Some might have even flown straight to Augusta. The weather's really good there right now. Have a couple of days, then disappear. It's a different world now. They can do that. We couldn't do that in back in the day. We got there
Hop on
Monday.
your private jet.
Oh,
Just hop on your private jet and go and check out Augusta National.
We got there Monday, and it all came as a mad rush trying to prepare yourself. So, lot to take in at Augusta. So,
alongside Scottie in a tie for second, Gary Woodland, his best finish since brain surgery. A genuinely lovely, heartwarming story. And Sir Nick, Gary Woodland really is one of the game's good guys, isn't he?
you know, he really is. And, you know, what he went through was, I don't know what the right word is. Scary would be the most obvious, wouldn't it? And then to cut back and hit, 2 years on, playing great. And I love the way he slowed his swing down, because, you know, in the past, you know, he'd crank on it so hard he would narrow his angle. And I watched a couple of those swings really super slow. I mean, it's, you know,
it's a beautiful swing, isn't it?
Yeah,
It is aesthetically a stunning swing.
Yeah, tempo is the glue that sticks the golf swing together. You know, you got to have that. You can't force it. We can force it in certain places, but you certainly can't force it here. So yeah, if you can keep that same tempo at Augusta, and you know, that could be a you know, condition the golf course will be fabulous. So, you know, you've got to feel that he would. Most of those guys would wish there was Thursday of Augusta right now. They could just be up tomorrow.
Yeah. A final day charge, as Sir Nick was talking about, from Rory as well. Sloppy bogeys at the first and the 18th, bookended his round, but 7 birdies and an eagle in the middle. At one stage, he made 8 threes in a row. And here's what he had to say to Kira after his round.
You know, the last 3 days were really good. Actually made a slight adjustment to my driver yesterday. I went to the range and took the loft off a little bit, and I definitely drove the ball better today. So that was a positive. Saw some putts go in, and yeah, I felt like as I went on during the week, I got better and better, as the scores sort of suggest. So yeah, look, it was a good week. I still feel like I've got some stuff to work on, but yeah, overall a solid week, and you know, nice to have another week to sort of get ready and fine-tune my game going to Augusta.
Speaking of the next week, what does that look like, as the next time we will see you will be at the Masters tournament? Yeah,
I think just, you know, working on a few things. Right elbow's been bothering me a little bit, so maybe just get some treatment on that and make sure that that's okay going into Augusta. But yeah, just, you know, I've got my coach Michael Bannon coming in tomorrow. We'll do some work and, you know, just make sure that everything's in good shape for a week's time.
So Nick wins at Pebble and at the Players. He added Houston to his schedule just to keep himself ticking over. He is looking pretty good, Rory, but we're on elbow watch now for the next week or so after he had that to say after his round.
He's looking very good. I mean, you know, golf is, for me, there's three main departments. You look at everybody when you're assessing them. There's physical, technical, and mental, isn't it? Physical, we can just about see. You can see how strong someone is, but you can't see an injury. You know, technical, we can just about see it. You see the swing, what have you. And mental, we can't see. So that's purely hidden to the individual, isn't it? So you're guessing, but you know, that he's so going straight to Rory. Physically, he's got it. Technically, he's got it. Mentally, where is he mentally? It's
always the conundrum with Rory, isn't it?
It's the key to it. You know, after, you know, we've now gone 10 years on. You know, he's got the battle of trying to delete 10 years of this gap and say to him, you know, I mean, say to him, so look, I'm actually the best player in the world right now. And he is. And so if he can just get out of his own way, you know, easier said than done to delete, you know, and we then know how fragile our game is. You know, when he missed that 2-footer on the 16th at Pinehurst, it's a ridiculous game. It shatters you, doesn't it? It's like, if I can't hold it from 2 feet, I make a mistake. And you can see how his mind was scrambling down the next couple of holes. He made, in my opinion, poor decision up 18. And so 1 minute we're bulletproof, you're playing great and nobody can beat me. And then you do something like that and you start thinking, well, if I can't do that, what the heck? And you can see where your brain starts to go. So, wow, if he could just somehow, and I remember saying to myself, just relax and play. You know, you're going to win. And sure, that's your goal at the end of the week. And then we know you have to go hole by hole. But it's such a, history's not great. I think there's only been 2 players. I think Tiger and Crenshaw have won like 11 years between 2 majors. And I think in about the last 50 years. So forget that. You know, he's got to rewrite some of those things that because he's 35, playing great. Can he just go to Augusta and absolutely clear all the pictures out from the past? I mean, that's way easier said than done, but
Yeah,
he could do it. I got a feeling he might. He might get it.
well. He
You
might
know,
well.
it's the trust in the short irons. I mean, and that's his only. You're only good as your weakness, aren't you? And his weakness is when he loses his trust of his short irons, and and then you take a bogey when you've got a wedge in your hand, demoralizing. So put all that together. Well, I said, really long-winded answer, but
It's good. It's fine. It's all good.
I think he's in that weird kind of. He's got to deal with that mental battle. Knows he's got it physically and technically, just about.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah,
he?
exactly.
Can he go in there? We all used to say when we got older, can I play as if I was an 18-year-old again?
Yeah. And Rory himself has said that as well. He needs to get back to being that carefree kid skipping down the fairways.
Yeah, it's gonna have that attitude almost like it's either I don't care, I'm just gonna go and play. That's quite a nice one, or it's Monte Carlo or bust, whatever your attitude might be. Or you go for intensity and you put the blinkers on and say, nobody comes near me. I'm going to focus 100% on every shot, give it 100%, and I'll come up for air on the 72nd hole and see where I am. I mean, that's,
Exactly.
you pick. We're all different. You pick. So, as we said, it's going to be another fascinating week.
It will be, and let's get straight into it. We've had a few questions from listeners as well, which I'll sprinkle throughout. But first of all, Sir Nick, I'm going to rewind all the way back to 1979, your first Masters. Can you recall what your first recollections were arriving there for the very first time?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, again, we went in. I think we went on the Monday. I think I was probably playing at Greensboro before. You drive down, all that sort of thing. We didn't have the preparation like a kid, and you're just completely in awe of the place. You really were. I've just felt very uncomfortable. Just acclimatizing. I'd played in Australia, so I had a little bit, but a week or so on mega fast greens is just not enough. You've got to be on them, week after week. So that scares you. The speed of the greens, the amount of break, all those sort of things. Everything is different there. You had to have a local caddie. That was part of the tradition. And my guy wasn't great, sort of thing. So I just struggle with the whole thing. It's all, even the weirdness of the clubhouse. You're down one end, champions are up the other, all this sort of thing. So, I struggle. I missed the cut. So that was that. And I think, but it was all part of chipping away at the learning process of it. In 84, I played with Crenshaw in the last day when he won. And that was a good moment because I watched the guy and said, that is how you've got to putt. I mean, you've got to be unbelievable. If you want to win, you've got to be unbelievable on the greens. You can't fake that bit. So putting all of that together, I mean, it took 10 years I didn't play every year. I didn't get invited. Hey, what do you know these kids who complain about getting invites? I finished second in our order of merit and didn't get an invite. So don't you don't you complain about, I'm not getting an invite, and they're losing out on spots. So finally 10 years later, in 1989, I managed to piece it all together.
Well, we'll get to that. But 79, of course, Fuzzy Zeller won, like yourself, playing in his very first Masters. At that stage, Gary Player was the only non-American to have won the green jacket. That all changed a year later in 1980 when Severiano Ballesteros kick-started this European takeover of the Masters, really. Without Sevi in 80, do you think you and Sandy and Woozy and Langer and Ollie would have been able to do what you did? How much belief did Sevi in 80 give you guys?
No, probably not. It's a bit like the breaking the form Roger Bannister. Somebody breaks it, because we had nothing in Europe to prepare ourselves. But for some reason, we got to Augusta and we were able to cope with it. We were able to adapt. I think European short games, American short games get very one-dimensional. Grab a 60-degree and give it a chop. In Europe, you've got to better play all sorts of things, mucky lies and all, bump and runs with any blimmin' club. I think those sort of things, you watch Sevi or you practiced even with him. And, so obviously he broke that barrier that, yes, we can do it. And obviously, yeah, I remember saying, well, I play against every week, and some weeks I can beat him. So why not? So yeah, once Europe got on that roll, that was fantastic, wasn't it? The big five. And that all,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful 20-year period. And let's get to 89 then, because you shared the 36-hole lead with Lee Trevino, and people may forget this with what followed, but you shot 77 in your third round. At that stage, did you think you'd blown your chance?
Oh yeah. I hold it. I got one of those records. I shot the highest third round of a champion.
There you go.
I don't
Great
mind.
record to have.
Yeah, it's a good one because I shot 65 the next day. So that helps. So yeah, it's quite funny. So at third, it was a mess. The weather was slowly getting worse. The golf course was wet. We were playing in rain and darkness, and we had to come in. So at 13, I'd laid up at about 50-yard pitch. Everything was going wrong. So I played great for first 27 holes. I'm 6 under. The next 27, I'm 9 over. So, but from that 13 in, I thought I could rescue the day. Lee and I, we were driven in. I forgot. Lee told me that our evacuation van ran out of gas on the way to the clubhouse, so we had to walk in. I didn't even remember that. Anyway, came back the next day thinking if I shoot 2 under for the next 6, I'll be good. I shot 2 over for the next 6 holes, so everything went wrong. So I was really down. Then actually, good old days. I went back. I was staying in the Courtyard Marriott. Normally $60 a night. They'd put it to $120 for the week a night. So, but I remember, and we got by fax, I think, came through the tea times. I remember looking. I was sitting having breakfast, second breakfast, I guess, and then I saw it. I said, you know what? I could still do this. I could still win this. Went back, and that's when I did the famous putter change. Grabbed the putter that Ken Brown didn't need. It was his backup putter we were in Florida practicing, and I said, I quite like it. I said, have it. So I thought, sod it, change putters, went out, gave it a few slaps. First green, 45 feet in, 32, hold a curler on 4, which was really good, one of them, and it was, but I still wasn't in it. I think, do you know what? I was still like 5 back when I was on the 11th green, because I bogeyed 11 again, 4 bogeys for the week.
Yes.
At 3 wood, good old days, 3 wood into 13. How about that? But then the mega finish was 16. I hold that putt. From the back. So Augusta, if your ball stays on the collar, you lose gravity. If it comes off that by 1 inch, it goes obviously down to the flat spot, doesn't it? So it's sitting up on the plumbing back of the green, holes there, and I was putting over there. Honestly, it was 15 feet with 12 foot of break. It went in like that. And then I slap it in across over the hill at 17 in the rain. We hit 4-iron at the last, driving 4-iron, good old days. I had half a chance. And then they took me off to Bobby Jones's cabin. I sat there for 45 minutes just watching TV, and none of them go to the range. I think kind of they didn't even let me out. And then off we went for the playoffs. So, which many have seen. And the infamous moment obviously is Scott Hoke missing that 2-footer on the 10th. What are you thinking as he's standing over that putt? Well, you saw me there like this, arms folded. I honestly said I can still win this, but I said it bloody well doesn't look very good right now. That's what I might say. And then he misses it, and you saw me kind of go rock, and I went, okay, right. And off we went to regroup. You got 11. 11 was long and wet. I had it down the right. I had 3-iron into that green.
Yeah.
Nailed this 3-iron. It turned a little. All I saw was turning a little left. Honestly, it was that dark. Didn't see the ball until we were 60 yards from the green. Got down there, and Scott played across, and then there. And famously, I had Andy Prodger from Watford on the bag, and Proj came down, and I said, "What do you think, Proj?" And he went, "Oh, looks a bit of a blur to me, Gov." So, all right, then you just get up there and hold the flag. And I had very technical thoughts that week. My putting was left hand, right, left, right, and I was squeezing it. I said, "God, just let go." And I just went left, right as quick as that, and this thing went in.
It went
boom.
in. And having bogey the 11th, all 4
Yeah,
rounds, you
it's funny.
birdied the 11th in the
Yeah,
playoff.
they put it up when you go and play the hole. CBS put it up. We got 4 bogeys. So if I was doing a commentary, I'd have said, no chance, mate.
Yeah. And your
So
reaction is seared into so many people's brains to this day. It was almost one of shock rather than joy
yeah,
when that
what it
got
was.
dropped.
Yeah, it was. I said, oh my God, or something like that. Something else. Yeah, it was no swearing, but I just something. Yeah, it was my kind of like when I hold putts. It was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it just went in so sweet. It's still the sweetest long putt of my life because it just came off, when it's funny how we know about a game, like when you pick a putt, it's low or high, that millisecond you've hit it, but this thing just went and just tracked and boom, it was
Yeah.
gone. So rather
Yeah.
nice.
Rather nice. Fast forward a year, and there's a theme to all 3 of your Masters victories, actually, and that's comebacks on the final day.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
in 1990, Ray Floyd has a 4-shot lead with 6 holes to play. You birdie 13, 15, 16. Floyd bogey 17. It's another playoff. So as that playoff begins, are you thinking, well, I've got all the momentum here, and this time last year, I won this thing the exact same way?
No, you're back down at 10, and I popped it up again, and I'm on that hill, and I nailed a 4-iron again. And the angle you're coming from, it's not that far off line, but it come up short, hit a good bunker shot, really good bunker shot, and obviously Ray had a chance. So anyway, we halve, go to the next, and the thing all I remember is it happened so quick. That's the only hole. There was a restroom in the trees of 11. He went there. By the time I got to my bag, I heard crunch, and I actually said, "Bloody hell, is it?" And I saw it turn and go in the pond, and then in about 5 seconds of going to, what the hell can he? What can he make? What can he do? What can he? You're trying to work out what, and I know you like. Well, you still got to make 4. All right, and then you got on it, and then I had a lovely little hold off the lay time safe, and a great lag putt, and wow, that there was a lot to that week really, because obviously Fanny was brand new,
Yeah.
hired her for 1990. It's funny, I remember we rushed off to Australia. I can't remember anything else in between that, but Augusta was huge for her. She broke some barriers there at Augusta, lady caddy, all of that. It was, my God, 35 years ago now. It was amazing,
Not bad.
special moment that year, the way we
To win
started.
it, to win a claret jug at St Andrews as well a few months later. Not too shabby.
Yeah, I hit the hole at the US Open, and we win 2 out of the first 3 majors, and wow, that was quite something, wasn't it?
It was indeed. Which takes us, Sir Nick, to 1996, one of the most dramatic final days in Masters history. We've had a lot of questions you can imagine on 96. On a similar theme, Paul Delves asks, when did you realize Greg Norman was catchable in 96? Andrew Hunter, how early in the final round in 96 did you believe that Norman was vulnerable to the pressure?
Well, yeah, I've told these stories a million times. Second tee, he suddenly did the big regrip.
Yeah.
He regripped about 12 times, so, and I looked, I thought, that's different. We still made 4 and what have you. So the big moments for me was, I feel for me, the 6th hole is like a barometer. When they put that flag back there, I mean, if you haven't seen it, seriously, it's as big as your thumbnail, because I've done it, 190 yards, and, downhill, swirling breeze, and that plateau, honestly, as big as your thumbnail. And so I had 6-iron in behind that, hold that. So that makes you feel good. It's like, right, my irons are on. But then I think the 10th hole for me was like, I knew he was in trouble, because he had a really straightforward 8-iron to the green, pulled it left, jammed the chip, missed the putt. So then I thought, okay, and now we were right there. And then the 3 past 11, then the 12th tee were tied. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That's where I already felt the nerves. I thought, wow. So I hit, it was like the good old match play days. Get it in the middle of the green, safe. We were chipping 7-iron back in the day, with an old golf ball and that sort of thing. And I walk off 2 in the lead. So there was a lot to deal with it. And then, of course, we had the fun and games of 13, deciding what club to hit, the 5-wood or the 2-iron, that sort of thing, which went backwards and forth. Still got that 5-wood. I've got it in the bag in my TrackMan. I was looking at it yesterday. Hilarious. This thing's this big. and and then, as you know, he gave me 2 more at 17. I had a really good chip at 15. And then he gave me 2 more at 16, and that was really enough. And all I wanted to do was, just give me 4-shot lead going up the last. I know I can handle that. But that was an amazing, when you, for me, obviously, I shot 67, and that was the low round of the weekend, for everybody. Those greens were as hard as that. And so, so for me, putting all that strategy and dealing with the nerve and walking myself through the shot, because I had doubts. You have doubts. You've got to deal with your doubts playing that golf course. And, to be able to deal with that as well, all of that, for me, that was the best 67 I ever shot in my life, obviously.
Well, I was going to ask you, obviously, you shot 67 that final day. You win by 5 shots in the end. But that 96 Masters is still known as Greg's meltdown.
Yeah, well,
Does that bother you a bit? Hang on, guys. I went and I grabbed the tournament by the scruff of the neck here.
Not at all. I mean, I'm lucky. As you can tell, I'm quite happy to sit here and talk about it. I can't imagine what's the tour. And I'm blessed with so many people saw that around the world, and they know the facts. I mean, it is unbelievable. I go through airports. I promise you, every other time I go through an airport, somebody will come up and go, "Oh, you and Greg 96." They get all the facts right. And I either started them into, "Oh, you got me into golf," or "I hate you because I love Greg," and da-da-da. But, so you have a chat about it. I go to business meetings. This is true. I was in Philippines designing golf course. I've got the government, and they said, "Before we start the meeting, tell us about 96. I said, "You're joking." I'm sure I want to talk about it. It's great for me.
Yeah, exactly.
We're 30 years next year, and hey, it's like having a great album. People love to play it. And so I'm very happy, and I hope we can celebrate it in some fun way next year, because, Fanny was there as well, and, we're still great mates, and we've got to find a way to celebrate that one next year.
And look, I mean, for those that haven't seen it, I think most people listening to this probably have, but the 2-iron at 13, one of the greatest golf shots under pressure you will ever see. So I encourage people to seek that out on YouTube. Nick, we've had a lot of questions you'd imagine on the Champions Dinner. First one of my own. How exactly does it work? Is there a seating plan, or you just sit next to whoever you want to?
It's funny. I go in the Southern Hemisphere, as I call it. I go, so there's the chairman is at, the room's rectangle, big long rectangle table. So that end is, they have the chairman, the champion, Ben Crenshaw, that sort of thing is that end. So then it comes down, and usually Jack comes down this side. Jack Tiger, Freddie Couples are in that kind of segment. Over that side, Langer, the Lazabal, that. And then, so I go down the Southern Hemisphere, as I call it. So I'm usually right on the corner. Gary is there. We usually get either Adam Scott there or Trevor Immelman. VJ's usually over there. Schwartzel's there. So you can tell we usually charge down to our same spots. It's quite fun.
And like the bad boys sitting in the back of the bus.
Well, not really. No, it's good. Get there. Gary tells you all his same Ben Hogan stories again. So it's good. It's good for it's I've been there when Sarrazin and Sneeb were there, Byron Nelson, Arnold, of course, Sebi. And those are the kinds of the ones we've lost.
Yeah.
So we had a few quiet years. The stories are starting to come out now. It's quite fun. They're usually ribbing. Somebody says something, everybody gives them a hard time, which is quite fun.
Donald Grant had sent him a question, which was, did anyone ever complain about your choices for the Champions Dinner? I mean, you had 3 of them, but were they all pretty good menus? Pretty happy with them all these years later?
No, I did the first one. I did steak and kidney pie, and they smelt the kidney, and that didn't go down well. There was only about 3 or 4 of us had that one. I deemed my fish and chips, because I flew over Harry Ramsden fillets, cod fillets, chips, mushy peas, Sarson's vinegar. I deem that as one of the top 3 self-proclaimed. Where the hilarious bit was that the waiter comes round and he goes, "Do you want these? What are these?" I said, "They're mushy peas." He said, "Mushy what?" They're nuclear fluorescent green, aren't they? But I deem that was really good. We've had some good ones. I mean, Rambo was very good. It all started, BJ started a great trend when he had Thai friends in a restaurant. And so we started all the canapes on the front balcony to start the evening. And now we've got, I do crabs legs and hams and sushi. So you actually get stuffed before you get started. And then we go in and do our official photograph.
Yeah.
Then you run to your spots and then we eat it. So it's pretty, and it's the coolest thing out. It's just champions and the chairman. That's it. Nobody else.
Amazing. I
Very
mean,
cool.
somebody asked what was the worst dinner, and I already know the answer. You're going to say Bubba's.
Chuck E. Cheese, we called it. Yeah, we had a little bit of chicken and some corn, and yeah, and then ice cream sundae. I mean, it was horrendous.
Horrendous.
We're
We're running out of time, sadly. So 3 is just little quick questions just to rattle off. Ali Wilson asks, "What is the hardest regulation shot?"
I guess my first mind would go to 11. Because all the history, everybody said Hogan bailed out. You've got the pond. You have to really, up. You're standing there with back in my day when you got long irons, 4 irons, and that sort of thing to that. And if you tweak it, how good are you really at hit? I mean, I used to hit my little hold off fade, kind of aim just right of center and just nail it there. You think you don't even think about the pin. You think it's over on front, middle, or back. You don't even worry about the back. I mean, it's really. Most of the time, you're just trying to get that thing in the middle of the green, and that's that is a nervy shot.
Yeah, I bet. Terrifying. We've saved the hardest hitting questions to the very end. Dr. Tony asks, egg salad or pimento cheese?
I don't mind. The only thing I'm shocked that they put it on white bread.
I know.
For it, so I don't do the sandwiches. No, I don't, because of the white bread. I mean, I might have to take my own.
We see so it's not it's not a bread sandwich, but I am already looking forward to my first Georgia peach ice cream sandwich next year, which for listeners is actually peach ice cream wedged between 2 cookies. It is absolutely sensational.
Oh yeah, the peach cobbler they do and that sort of thing. Yeah, they do a nice lump crab for starters, and your peach cobbler. Yeah, you got to have your peach cobbler. Yeah,
fantastic. And the very final question, as I said, we've saved the hardest hitting question to the last. Shrimp Tank asks, "What was your favorite Pringle jumper?"
Oh, I've still got him. The 87 Open, the yellow one. So I went in there. Derek Douglas, we used to go in on Monday morning to Pringle at the Open. Used to go to the Pringle stand and pick my sweaters out for the week. And Derek said, "Which one do you want when you went on Sunday?" And I went, "That one, that yellow." I've still got him. It's actually in my bedroom drawer still.
That's the sort of yellow one with the diamonds. Yeah.
Your bits and what have you. The finest. It was the finest. It was the finest Mongolian cashmere at the time. Those things cost 350 quid. Back in the 80s.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're gorgeous. They, talk about and if I lose a couple of pounds, it still fits.
There you go. There's the incentive. Listen, Sir Nick, thank you so much for your time. I shall see you next week in Augusta. Already really looking forward to it. We're going to take a quick break there. When we return, we'll wrap up what else has been going on in the world of golf. We'll have the second part of my chat with Steve Williams, and I'll be joined by someone aiming to successfully defend her title this week at Augusta National. Welcome back to the Sky Sports Golf Podcast presented by Callaway. We've let Sir Nick go, but I've been joined by another English golfer to have tasted success at Augusta National. Indeed, the most recent English golfer to have won at Augusta. And this week she will aim to defend her Augusta National Women's Amateur title, which she won in dramatic fashion last year. Hello, Lottie Woad. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
I said in dramatic fashion, you birdied 15, 17, and 18 last year. I was there for it. It was just phenomenal. How many times have you watched that back?
Honestly, not that much actually. But I've seen the 18th part quite a lot. I will admit that.
For those of us that will never do it, tell us what it is like to hole a winning putt on that 18th green.
Um, I mean, it's very cool. Obviously, didn't think I'd get an opportunity to play Augusta, let alone hole a putt to win a tournament there. And there was so many people there, and uh, honestly, kind of can't quite remember the moment it went in, but I just know it was very loud.
It was fantastic to be there for it. And what does it feel like arriving back this year, as defending champion, perhaps a bit more of a target in your back this year? Does it feel different?
I mean, there might be, but I mean, we only arrived yesterday, so we haven't even got out onto the course yet, so can't really comment on that. But it feels great to be back. This is our probably our favorite event of the year, and it's always such a joy to play both courses, and feeling good about my game and just excited to get going. Really.
And obviously 2024 was amazing for you, not just winning at Augusta, top 10 finish, Loam at the British Open, at St Andrews as well, a part of a winning Curtis Cup team. How on earth do you follow a year like that?
I mean, it's definitely difficult. Kind of not looking to really compare, and just trying to push on really. And obviously, last year was amazing, and big year for me, and kind of set me up. And got some great opportunities this year to again play some iconic courses. So just really looking forward to that. And I'm already in the US Open and the Open this year, so
Yeah.
I'm just looking forward to playing in some more majors as well.
And you mentioned the fact that you're already in those two more majors as well. That is obviously, as long as you remain amateur, there was a bit of clamour for you to turn pro after Augusta last year, that you could even make the Solheim Cup team. When is the plan to turn pro? Is that still very much in the back burner?
Yeah, I'm just not really looking to think about it really right now. I'm just trying to focus on, particularly this week, and then I got the rest of the college season with FSU, so just looking to kind of focus on the present, and just play good golf really, and then that will put me in good stead.
And it's all been pretty good so far this season, right? Playing well?
Yeah. I've been playing well at college, and our team's been doing great. So yeah, a lot of momentum going into this week.
Yeah, you just sort of, I know you've only sort of got into town, but the build up to it, I'm sure you've had this circled on the calendar for a while. What's the build up to Augusta been like this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been different, compared to last year. I've had a lot more, media stuff and stuff like that that I didn't have to do last year. So just getting my head around that a little bit. I think last year I learned a lot about that. I hadn't really been exposed to it. So, just making sure I'm leaving time for everything I need to do for the week to be prepared, really.
And you said you haven't watched that finish last year back too many times, but as I said, to birdie 3 of your last 4 holes, that is about as clutch as it gets, and that must have given you so much belief.
Definitely. I think just coming from behind and knowing that I not really out of it, definitely gave me a lot of belief and confidence in my game, and kind of set me up for the rest of the year really. Kind of went straight from Augusta to play the
Yeah.
Chevron like it was the week later. So just kind of gave me a lot of confidence kind of going into that and the rest of the year.
Just finally, because I know you're very busy. This isn't a football podcast, but it was also
Yeah.
around about this point last year when the wheels kind of started to come off for Leeds United. Look, late equaliser from Swansea at the weekend, 6 points from the last 15, I think. Sheffield United now 2 clear at the top. Burnley breathing down your necks. Is it all starting to feel a bit deja
Yeah.
vu-y?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's feeling a bit like deja vu, but I'm hoping this year will be different. I'll say that, but I didn't realize it was only 6 points in the last 15 or whatever. That's worse than I thought it was. So I'm hopeful.
Oh, sorry, I've had to break that bad news to you. I mean, a good friend of mine's a Leeds fan. I said to him a few weeks ago, surely not even Leeds can bottle it from this position. So come on, there's got to be a strong finish coming, surely.
I'm hoping this year will be different. Just we have to get top two. I think I said that last year. Can't go in the playoffs, and I mean I was right.
Yeah, yes, I think Leeds fans have got some serious battle scars when it comes to those playoffs. Look, Lottie, thanks so much for your time. The Anwa starts on Wednesday, live coverage on Sky Sports Golf. Lottie aiming to defend her title. Lottie, very best of luck. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully we see you this weekend as a back-to-back champion.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, hopefully.
To wrap up some events from around the world, Eugenio Chacarra got his maiden victory on the DP World Tour, winning the Hero Indian Open. For those unaware, he was the world #2 amateur. He signed with Liv, won on Liv, but then struggled for form, so was dropped by Liv at the end of last season, was fairly outspoken after that in saying that Liv was only about the money, and so he's now trying to make his way onto the PGA Tour. This win means he now has full membership of the DP World Tour for the next 2 years. He was a sponsor's invite into the Indian Open, and he said after his round that Hero had changed his life. It means everything, he said. I know when I play well, I'm one of the best players in the world. So we'll wait to see what we get from Eugenio Chacarra. The TGL had a finale fitting for what has been a pretty well-received first season. Fresh off being my special guest on last week's podcast, Billy Horschel got the iconic moment in match 2, his Atlanta drive side having already won the first match, draining a lengthy double breaking putt and going absolutely bonkers. Great fun. Congratulations to Bill, to JT, Patrick Cantlay, and Lucas Glover. On the LPGA, Hyojin Kim shot a final round 64 to force herself into a playoff with Lilia Vu, who'd held the 36 and 54 hole leads. Kim birdied the first playoff hole to win there. On Thursday, Charlie Hull had shot a career low 63. She found all 18 greens in regulation, faded a bit yesterday in the final round, finishing in a tie for 11th. But she continues her run of top 20 finishes every time she's teed it up since last August. And that first major of the year is just around the corner. So fingers crossed for Charlie. But now to part 2 of a chat I had with Steve Williams, Tiger Woods' caddy for 12 years and for 13 of his 15 majors. He's written a book alongside Evan Priest called Together We Roared. As I said last week, it's a love story really to Tiger, some wonderful little anecdotes, and you see a completely different, softer side to Tiger. In today's second chunk of our chat, Steve talks about their falling out and years spent not talking to each other. But we begin by looking back at perhaps the most emotional major of Tiger's 15, his 2006 Open triumph, coming as it did just weeks after the passing of his father. Earl Woods obviously passes in 2006, and I know you had a lot of time for Earl. The Open is at a burnt-out Hoylake in 2006. Your call not to hit driver all week to sort of strategically plot his way around. But walking up that 18th, the sun peeking through the clouds, Tiger just sobbing uncontrollably on your shoulder after that final putt dropped. Even reading the book, Steve, that made me sort of choke up reading that. Thinking back to that moment now, what do you feel like?
Yeah, look, I mean, we were just walking, off the tee down towards the green there, and it'd been a cloudy, overcast, hot, humid sort of a day, and all of a sudden the sun shone through, and it was an incredible memory. Those rays of sun coming through, some very light and dark, different colored clouds coming through, and I don't know how it just came to my head. I said, "That's your dad looking down at you." I didn't think anything of it. It was just a thought. I said, I actually said, "That's Pops looking down on you." He called his father Pops, and I said, "That's Pops looking down on you." I thought nothing of it. Went up there, he hit his second shot onto the green putt out, and then he just absolutely broke down. And at the time, I didn't really understand what was going on, but then, I quickly realized, he actually thought that was Pops looking down on him. And we all saw a side of Tiger we've never seen before. We've seen this guy that comes to the golf course, a very, very, guy that's very robotic-like and very military-like in his preparation and the way he goes about his business at the golf course. And all of a sudden, we see a side of him that no one's seen.
Yeah.
And and it was, it was an incredible moment. And but that was a monumental victory and a great one too. I felt real special about that one. Tiger had not played at Hoylake. We got there Saturday afternoon, and the typical thing, we just fly from Orlando. I'm not off the plane for 5 minutes at the house and get your ass over to the golf course, Steve, and go around it. So he's back there having lunch, stretching, whatever he's doing. I'm going around looking at the golf course. I came back at lunchtime and said, "We don't need a drive around here." And I based that on the bunkers were penal, but also in his tournament warm-up at the Western Open, he was hitting his long irons as good as I'd ever seen, mid to long irons. And I thought, if we just take the bunkers out there, as good as his long iron, the medium iron players, he can't get in any trouble. You won't make a double if you don't hit it in a bunker, and you'll subsequently have a lot less drop shots because the bunkers are very penal there. It was an incredible performance to go around there and win a major championship without hitting a driver.
Not just that week, Steve, but in general, do you think Earl's passing was maybe the moment Tiger started to let people in a bit more to show a more human, empathetic side of him?
Oh, for sure. Like it was a like Earl played a major part, obviously, in Tiger's role. But the one thing that Earl was instrumental in that Tiger loved is Earl. In his later years, he wasn't able to go to as many tournaments as he wished. His health was not great, and he didn't like traveling as much. But he watched every round that Tiger played, and Tiger quite often could call Earl, and Earl would just notice little things, particularly with the putting. Earl would watch on the TV, and his posture might be not quite right. His hands might not be in the right position. The ball could be a little too full. He had a great eye for picking up little things that might help Tiger, and often some of those phone calls after a round to Pops would give Tiger a bit of information to work on, and was very beneficial numerous times. But yeah, I mean, obviously, when your father passes away, Tiger looked up to him like every child does. But I mean, he has so many memories when you play a game like golf and you're able to participate playing with your father. It's quite a unique sport in that way. It's like when you play other sports, your father takes you to the venue. If you play soccer or rugby or football, whatever you're playing, your parents aren't actively. They might be the coaches, but when you're actually growing up playing golf, you're playing with your dad, against your dad, and he's teaching you. It's a unique game, golf, in that sense. And then Tiger loses his main man there, and
Yeah.
it certainly changed the way he went about things, and he became a bit softer, I guess.
To the 2008 US Open then at Torrey Pines, which it's clear again reading the book, Tiger had this obsession with Torrey Pines, adored the place. And that means that he plays through agony, not just for 72 holes, for 91 holes. Looking back in that, his greatest ever major win, given the pain he was in, you were imploring him to withdraw throughout the tournament.
Unquestionably. I mean, I remember the very first. I flew in from New Zealand to California on Saturday, and I was driving down the freeway to San Diego there, and Hank Haney, we were talking to Hank on the phone. He says, "Steve, Tiger's got no right playing in this tournament. He's playing terrible. He's got no right playing in the tournament." And then his practice was very ordinary. It was only 9 holes each day, and it was very average. It was like, I still think today it was an amazing thing, and I've often talked about the golf gods, but sometimes I think there are golf gods, because it's just like, I almost feel like everybody let him win the tournament. His name got up there on the leaderboard. He made that incredible finish to Friday's round. His name got up there, and it's as if they let him win. I know they didn't, I felt the winning score should have been several shots lower than that. It just didn't seem that difficult, and major championships are won by not the greatest amount of good shots, the least amount of bad shots. But I mean, he hit more poor shots in that major championship than probably almost any tournament he played in, and still won the tournament. I mean, he made
Yeah.
3 double bogeys on the first hole. So, and it was an incredible feat, given what I saw prior to each round and after, with his trainer, trying to get him to the point where he could walk and play. It was an incredible feat.
Little did you know what was just around the corner. More injuries, a lot of time spent back in New Zealand for you, Tiger's extramarital affairs. And on the drive to Augusta for the 2010 Masters, you really let him have it, as the book says, brutally honest with him, tell him that you felt as if you'd been hung out to dry over the whole saga. And in hindsight, you say maybe you felt you were a bit too harsh to him.
Oh, look, yeah, I mean, it was a difficult period, no question about it. And I'm a straight up sort of person, and that's kind of how our relationship was so strong. I think Tiger loved the fact that I was straight up. I told her it as it is, always have, always will. And I felt I needed to address the situation, which I did. And, I knew after that week that things were never going to be the same again, and that was probably the start of the demise of if there's such a thing. But sometimes in life you've got to say things. You've got to stand up for yourself. You can't ever wonder, why didn't I say that? If I'm a great believer in, I've given things considerable thought, and if you feel it's the right thing to do something, then you must do it. And that was exactly what happened there.
Yeah, as you said, and you said in the book, you were never quite on the same page again. You didn't feel as if there was that same drive or desire to get past Jack's 18. And then we get to the end. Tiger said he'd rather you didn't caddy for Adam Scott in Ronimink, leaves you furious. Mark Steinberg calls you in for a meeting. You say Tiger is aloof, his body language is dismissive. It's clear reading that in the book that you felt hugely hurt, hugely let down by the way it all ended.
Yeah, look, I mean, I guess Also, there's a great thing about loyalty. So Adam calls me up when Tiger's injured. Can you come and caddy for me at the US Open? Absolutely. And the reason why I did it, well, I was in New Zealand. Tiger was going to play in the tournament. I boarded a plane with my father-in-law and one of my best mates. We came across to America, got to Los Angeles from the flight from New Zealand, and then found out that Tiger's withdrawn from the tournament. So we're already over in the United States. So I've got, like I said, my father-in-law and one of my best mates with me, and Adam calls at the same time. It all happened very quickly. Tiger, on one hand, Tiger's calling me, and then, an hour or so later, after the news goes out that Tiger's not playing in the tournament, Adam calls me, can you caddy for me? So I said, yeah, no problem. I rang Tiger. He said, yeah, no problem. And then a day later on that, Mike Steinberg, Tiger's manager, said, Tiger would, he'd rather you not caddy for Adam. And I already told him I was going to. I was on my way there. So I did it. I guess that was the one thing. If there's one thing I regret in my career, that was it. My wife said, no, if Tiger says don't, you shouldn't do it, Steve. And I didn't really understand at the time, but I get it now that Tiger didn't really want me parting any of my information, or his information, his strategy, the way he prepares for majors, how he to pass on that to another player. And I didn't understand that at the time, but I do now. So, but yeah, that was a mistake, but that was what it is. And yeah, so that had I have obeyed what Tiger said, there's a good chance I might still be getting from today. Who knows? But that's just the way the cards fell. And yeah.
And 2023, before you'd speak again, considering this was someone, and this is so clear in the book, he wasn't just your boss, he was a friend who you'd enjoyed a genuinely close bond with. That must have eaten away at you, those 12 years without even talking to each other.
Yeah, look, you always sit back and think, this, that, and the other. I should have done things differently. But it's a very strange relationship, a caddy and a player. And it's not just Tiger and myself. When you part ways with a player, being a caddy, it's often the end of the road as far as any kind of communication goes. And it's not that there's any hard feelings. It's not that it's the nature of the job. It's a very unusual thing. It's almost like a divorce in some ways. You spend so much time, and then a player gets a new caddy and everything changes, and you don't have any communication. But yeah, when I did see Tiger in 2023, it was good to catch up, and we had a good chat and everything. And he was very good. We both, we have some differences in opinions on how some things went, but at the end of the day, I have the utmost respect for him. I was very fortunate to caddy for one of the greatest players ever and be part of some golfing history. He was an incredible guy to work for, and he was very generous to myself and my entire family. And I have nothing but praise for a guy, and feel very fortunate to have been able to stand by him and watch him play some of the best golf ever played.
There's some lovely touching stories in the book as well, Steve, such as his best man speech at your wedding, calling you when you won the Super Saloon Championship, the handwritten notes to each other. It shows a softer side of Tiger maybe, which people weren't aware of, and as I said before, what was a genuinely close friendship.
Yeah, look, I mean, he has a very soft side and a very appreciative side to the people that work for him. He's a very demanding boss, but anybody that's in that position that seeks greatness and wants to be the best ever, there is a tall order as far as how much drive goes in, how much work goes in, the practice, the dedication, and that self-minded, single-minded approach that you've got to take to get to reach the heights that Tiger did. I understood all that and everything, and totally happy with everything, at that. But there was obviously a huge demand caddying for him, and like I said earlier, some of those periods along the way where there was stretches of major championships that didn't, where he didn't win one, put a lot of pressure on. But he had a very kind touch, and it was. I think I mentioned in the book, I'm an old school bloke, do everything old way, and I didn't for a long time didn't have a cell phone, which really bugged Tiger. But I used to leave notes with him, and we would exchange these notes, and I've kept these notes, and they mean a lot to me. His words, and he doesn't say anything without any meaning, and he takes his time. He had great handwriting, which I always admired as well, because in the day of using phones and laptops and computers and that, the skill of writing was greatly diminished, but his handwriting was always impressive. I like that. But no, he had a softer side that people didn't see. That when he came to the course, he was all business. That was his job. He had a task. He wanted to do that task to the best of his ability every single day he came to the golf course. But he certainly the softer side, which, only those people around him would see off the golf course.
And there's an admission, Steve, right towards the end, which made me sad reading it, where you say you'll probably never see him again. You just may never cross paths again. When was the last time you spoke to him?
Yeah, well, it was at 2023 at the LA Open at Riviera. I'm not on the golf tour anymore, but yeah. I mean, look, ultimately, down the road here sometime, I think I'd like to make contact with him and go and have a couple of beers and just reminisce. But Tiger's still got a task at hand. I mean, obviously he's out injured at the moment with another setback, but I truly believe that he will not give the chance of winning another major away. He'll want to still practice and get to the point where he feels he could stand on the tee and physically compete for 72 holes, knowing that he's given every bit of practice he can do to get there and try and win one more major. It's just, I think that's, he's not done yet.
Well, people will love to hear that. We don't want to see a shadow of the player that you caddied for in his pomp. We want to see Tiger compete again. Just two final quick questions, because I've taken up enough of your time already. First one is, do you still have the Ford GT Mark II from the 2005 Ford Championship?
Yeah, just cleaned it last week. Gave it a run around the block last week. It's only got 1,613 miles on it.
It's obviously your pride and joy still to this day.
Oh yeah, well, it's a collector car, so it has very low mileage on it. But as we speak, I give it a clean last week and a blat around the block.
And just finally, this is one of my favorite stories in the book as well, that every major you went into, you had a song for the week that you just played on loop the entire time, and it sort of set the tone for the week. So have you ever considered making a mixtape of the 13 tracks from those 13 major victories you had together?
I've got them all written down because it's just something. Every time I went to a town, I'm a classic rock man, and there would always be a song on my playlist that would sort of resonate with the tournament you were going to, the meaning of the tournament, something between a song, and there would be some communication, some connection between the song and the event. And that's a very good idea, and I have actually thought about that. It would be quite a good compilation of some very good music from some great artists.
I'd certainly buy it. I'd certainly download it. Steve, listen, thank you so much for your time. The book, as I said, is a masterpiece. I really enjoyed it from start to finish. I encourage any golf fan to read it because it does give a really wonderful portrayal of what was obviously a very close friendship, very intimate friendship, and 12 incredibly successful years together. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be on your show. Cheers, buddy.
This week in the world of golf, we stay in Texas on the PGA Tour. It's the Valero Texas Open. Akshay Bhatia defending his title here. Decent field with Ludwig Oberg, Tommy Fleetwood, Matt Fitzpatrick, Patrick Cantlay, Hideki Matsuyama, all in San Antonio, looking to fine-tune ahead of the Masters. No event this week on the DP World Tour. They get a chance to lick their wounds after 4 days of getting beaten up by DLF in India. The LPGA is in Las Vegas for the match play, which is always fun. And we've already mentioned the Anwar begins on Wednesday. Come on, Lottie Woad. But that about does us for today. A big thank you to Sir Nick and to Lottie for joining me today. If you liked what you've heard or watched today, make sure you give us a follow on Apple or Spotify, wherever you get your pods. While there, why don't you leave us a review and let us know what you think of the show? Thank you again to Callaway for sponsoring the podcast, and congratulations indeed to Callaway as one of their staffers, Minwoo Lee, got his maiden PGA Tour victory, just as Thomas Dietrich has done this season as well. Next week, it'll be a Tuesday podcast, so a little bit longer to wait, but it'll be from Augusta with the one and only Butch Harmon. So well worth the wait. Cannot wait to see Butch, and I cannot wait to get to Augusta. It is almost there, folks. I can almost taste those Georgia peach ice cream sandwiches. Thank you again for your time, and do join us again next week.